So yeah, we touched on the Hurricanes and what they've taken away from the Blues games. Hopefully they'll take another step forward towards having their top team here. But yeah, we haven't really touched too much on the Highlanders. We sort of touched on the Crusaders side of that game. Do you think the Highlanders will be happy with Friday night, Richard?
Well, they'd be happy with the first 60 minutes, with the first 20 minutes in particular. Like they came out firing, and I thought I didn't have too much just hope for them in that game, but and I was on a couple of different sort of point starts and that sort of thing, and I was on Crusaders 11-20, and I was getting very nervous. Took your advice there. Came in the end, but I was getting very nervous. So, I thought they would have a lot to be sort of happy about. I thought that the changes they'd made in the backs, with the double barrels that Emma Jensen and who's the other one? Garland Bishop. Fullback. I thought they both were sort of good ends. Unfortunately, obviously, Garland Bishop ended up going to the wing, didn't he? And
because Marty Banks came on.
And I think Matty Banks playing more minutes than he was expected. I thought he probably had a pretty good game. He had a few big moments under the high ball and all that. I think there's a lot for them to sort of be happy about, but they as the Crusaders do, they were just, it's still, even though I was nervous, it still had that feeling that the Crusaders, all they needed was a moment from, the likes of Will Jordan or Lester Whanganuku, and that's what happened, and they sort of ran away with it. It was a 15-1 in the end.
Yeah.
But I thought Smith and Hunt were much better than they were against the Chiefs, so they sort of controlled the game a bit more. And then obviously I see Smith's coming off the bench this week, which is interesting, but probably
resting.
And not the worst person to have sort of Fakatava having him start. And I thought Frizzell really stood up as well. I thought that was a really.
I thought he was huge last week.
He was massive. So he'll obviously know that this is probably a pretty massive year in his sort of career, whether he can, because as we've sort of discussed in this podcast already, there's a lot of depth in the loose forwards for the All Blacks at the moment. So he's going to have to keep performances like that. But plenty to like for the Highlanders, but they just sort of probably lack that punch at the end there, didn't they?
Just when it push really came to shove, they couldn't go up a gear when the Crusaders did, and I don't know if there's a lot of factors that go into the Crusaders being a better rugby team overall is probably the biggest factor there. Like, you're not going to be playing the Crusaders every week, so. But how do you think the Highlanders are tracking so far, Paul?
Well, in terms of wins, not that good.
Oh, thank you.
But in terms of performance, I think they can be fairly happy with how they've gone at times during matches. As you said, they were up double digits against the Crusaders, and then the Crusaders decided to play rugby. But they actually look very, very good. Getting that lead, they just seem to. I don't know if it's switch off. I wouldn't say they switch off. I just say they get overrun slightly by other teams. Well, by the Crusaders anyway. So this will be a dangerous game for the Canes because A, the Highlanders are desperate for a win, and B, the Canes usually when they come off a big emotional win like that can sometimes fall back into their shell. I don't think it'll happen this weekend, but certainly it is a danger game for the Canes, and the Highlanders have the team that could upset the Hurricanes. So it wouldn't surprise me to see the Highlanders do that. I just like the makeup of this Canes team that they've put together this time. I think Sullivan certainly deserves his spot in the midfield. Geordie Barrett and Artie Severe.
You think they deserve their spots in the starting 15?
I think they did enough in the last game to keep their jerseys. Karifi coming back in will give them a wee bit more mobility around the field. As long as he can keep the penalty count down, I think that's a big plus for the Canes. He's sort of in the same sort of mould as you, Patrick. Quite keen to enter the ruck from any old angle.
We both spend about the same amount of time on side, which is very little.
Exactly. All in all, I do like the look of the makeup of the Canes team, but I think Whakatawa starting is a great selection by the Highlanders camp, because I'm sure there's nothing more than he'd like to do is put one over the catchment area that he actually comes from.
Yeah.
Don't remind Patrick.
Yeah, and it's not the sort of thing you want if you're a Hurricanes fan and the Highlanders are clinging to maybe a small lead with 25 minutes to go. Oh, we'll just bring on Aaron Smith.
Yeah.
Like, I think it almost, like you can make an argument for both ways because they're probably the two best halfbacks in New Zealand, and
especially the way that the Highlanders sort of, even though Whakatawa came on and was good, the way that they sort of just lost that momentum late in that game. Well, they have both games this year, so
maybe Eric can keep like they maybe get a bit sort of disjointed, and Whakatawa definitely provided an impetus against the Chiefs when they needed it. But if they are being competitive in the game, they just need to keep that structure and keep working the same way they always play. Aaron Smith's not going to let them get out of structure, as he's going to keep the troops rolling forward for sure. So they're just absolutely spoiled for choice in that halfback area there. In saying that, though, the Hurricanes do have a pretty good record against the Highlanders. They've won 5 of the last 6, won both pretty comfortably last season. Obviously, we all remember the Geordie Barrett show down at Forsyth Bar Stadium last year. So do you think something in the matchup of the teams that favours the Hurricanes here, or is it just maybe the way the chips have fallen recently, Richard?
Yeah, I think that on paper they probably have a more sort of well-rounded squad. I'm still got my questions about the Highlanders squad. I was probably surprised to see the line as big as it was, but then I suppose when you look at the history, Hurricanes won 5 of the last 6 and 8 of the last 10, and obviously had a couple of big wins recently. So I mean, when history, they're probably looking at history a lot there. And so results wise, I mean, Hurricanes probably should be 0-2, or they definitely should be 0-2, but they were still they did enough to sort of come back, and the Highlanders are 0-2. So it's probably a combination of sort of where they are on the table, the results, and the history.
So you steaming into the Hurricanes as $1.37 favourites?
I would as $1.37 favourites, but maybe not the point start.
Okay. How about you, Paul? Does backing the Hurricanes as favourites of that nature make you a bit queasy?
Yeah, they sort of got Warriors vibes about them. Back them when they're dogs, stay away from them when they're faves. But back to the Geordie Barrett thing, as you say, he had a huge game against the Highlanders last season, and I sort of relate it back to Michael Jordan when he went to the Garden and used to put on. I'm not saying that Geordie's in the Michael Jordan sphere at the moment. I'm just saying that there were certain teams where Michael Jordan didn't really matter how he was feeling. He just absolutely smashed him, and the Knicks felt that from Jordan many, many times. And I think the Highlanders might be the sort of team that Geordie Barrett just puts on a show against more often than not. So if I was to have a same game multi on this match, Geordie Barrett would feature quite prominently in that multi.